I'd say I don't know why I'm bothering to do yet another one of these fucking things, but honestly, it's just because of the incredible easiness of recording a video on Facebook Live. So, the shootout at Brown, well, it's not shootout, sorry, the shooting at Brown was a tragedy. I think the most on the spot thing that I've seen was, and I don't remember who stated this, but the rest of the alumni in the country stand with you, pretty much, is how I feel about the fact that that happened. For anyone who wasn't paying attention, I believe it's 2 dead and 8 shot. I also read that there was anywhere between 10 to 11 to 20 people who were shot in total. I don't know, I wasn't there. I live in East Providence, not Providence. There's been conflicting media reports. I guess the shooter was found, Benjamin Erickson. He seems a little bit too young to have done it. If it is someone from Wisconsin, it doesn't say a lot that someone from Wisconsin would come to Providence, whether or not he wanted to attend Brown or had or was going to. He might not know Brown at all. He might have specifically just chosen Rhode Island or somewhere to do a shooting specifically for number of targets or number of victims. If he has a predatory type personality, none of us know yet. But if he's not a fall guy, if Erickson isn't a fall guy, if he actually is the one that did it, then he also had Army training. And I'm going to stop talking about that. And instead, what I want to point out with my experience of the East Providence and Providence bar scene is that all these online messages that our bar is open, if you need community, come to us, come on in. Really, with how unfriendly people are about bringing your own bottles, that sort of policy, which always confused me, not because I'm the type of person that likes to bring my own bottles. It's not that. It's because quite often I've seen people either bring their own alcoholic drinks that weren't sold at particular venues, yet they had brought with them, are non-alcoholic chasers like tea and so on, the type of shit that I like. It always seems like it's a problem when I bring in my own drinks, even if they're non-alcoholic, even if they're just chasers. And that's something that, like, often our parents and our older relatives and cousins often told us to do, is if you're going to drink or if you're going to start drinking, then you should probably hydrate with some water. Since alcohol, as much as it'll heal you, will also make you hungrier and also ruin your digestion just from its own effect on things. So, I like bars, I like meeting new people, I actually like to socialize a lot, but even though I'm in a fucking miserable as fuck outside camp, I'd really rather just toast shit sandwiches out of, like, chips and ketchup. Because after the experiences at the, and like I've had good experiences at East Providence and Providence bars too, but like particularly Fieldhouse Pub, not so much. I like Fieldhouse Pub more so, like 133 Club and like Narragansett Brewery. I've had people act like very, very, very unfriendly towards me. To speaking of people that worked for these venues, and it always seems to be. And I'm not a fucking spokesman for Perrier bottles. I'm never trying to product placement fucking Perrier bottles. I just like the way they're shaped. I didn't even know that brand existed until like a couple of years ago. I just like the way they're shaped. I like the way that they shape drinks. Is what that really says. I'm a 30-year-old, so I can't fucking act stupid. I like the way that drinks get prepared in Perrier bottles. Some people say they look cute. Like, I put, like, Tito's caps on them, Absolute vodka caps, just to tighten the bottle a little bit. And people ask me, what I put in them. Just tea. Just tea, cream, milk, coffee, tea bags, And maybe like the type of shit that I like is usually like light beers, fruit beers, or vodka. That's it. Like what, and like it's just like no one wants to outright say like, damn, that looks really magical in particular in your hands specifically. As if I'm not holding and prepping them and using them instead of thermos bottles, like specifically because I know a miniature Prosecco bottle will impress a woman. Like, hello. Or as another male Rhode Islander might say, hello. So that's the Perrier thing, is how mean a lot of people were about them, and then also because I still continue to fucking use them as my thermoses. If you need to grieve about a college shooting that you weren't even at a Rhode Island bar, well, hey, I give you some credit, because I would hope that something like that happening would reignite some interest in the community and community spirit and stuff, especially with Christmas, Yuletide, the solstice coming up, literally every single winter-related holiday. My uncle actually works at Brown. Thankfully, he wasn't there, thank God. I love my uncle to death. I love him dearly. But again, and relating instead of to my experiences, just human experience in general, there's just this thing I've noticed since I've been back in RI, and not just noticed in person with like experiences that I've been through, but thought about in hindsight back to like, and even things I've said or done, or that girlfriends have said or done to me, or the one or two times I had boyfriends or guy crushes and stuff, that even if people love you, or even if they're in love with you, a lot of the time people come off as inconsiderate because they're just waiting to hear you say something in particular, or they're waiting to hear a certain tone of voice to get triggered in some way, like what I was talking about with the last live cast about memory tricks and getting triggered by memories and deja vu and recollection, and how music plays into that with jingles and so on, obvious crap. And I've noticed that more and more in conversations that I'm in, especially emphasizing that I'm a musician and stuff, like crossing out the IDS on Altoids tin so it just says alto. Like shit like that is a gimmick. It's not saying like I'm a fucking altar boy, like I'm a hardcore like to death Christian. It's supposed to be like a little bit of an Italian assertion that like there's someone in the room with eyes and ears at the same time. Which I'd say people never take me up on, but because that's my like almost entire personality to a point, they usually do. Like I said, I've had good and bad experiences since I've moved back, depending. But one thing I did notice is how people are like not selfish so much as self-interested, to a point of almost like almost coming off like insanity. And like for someone in a bad situation, you would think like I would self-advertise to get help for myself, or to just get like mutual aid or money or drinks or weed. But actually it's just the fact that I am the type of person who loves to share experiences. I love storytelling. I love to account things. I love to report things. And I really like to be there for people. I don't see many adults. I've seen and spoken with many adults that obviously have the capacity for that kind of thing, the emotional capacity, yet in either obvious or non-obvious ways make it obvious that they don't want that at that particular time, which is disappointing. Colleges, because actually the shooting at Brown has been heavily on my mind since it happened on the 13th. specifically. The Alto Clef is a pretty obscure thing. It does look like a 13, though. You have to think if Erickson is the one who did it, if he had army training, it often runs hand in hand with music just because of like entertainment expos and the stuff that the military does. Which, actually, before I got kicked out of Kettle Point Condos community building for the little microwave fire that I caused, which was some entree fruit. I threw it in a cup in the microwave. I put it out. I threw it in the sink and washed it, and washed the microwave and the floor too, because I didn't want to be an asshole. I wasn't there to get out of the cold. I was just in there to charge this phone. But I was there for hours before that happened. And one of the things that I was starting to do, because I had nothing else to think about, and also Facebook is actually like a really bad like echo chamber for me. I'm usually a lot more active on like a lot of different websites online, and I'm usually a lot more active in real life too. And I usually have a far larger social and friend group too, usually. Which is one thing that sucked, actually, because like I'm an introvert, but I'm not like a social outcast or any of that fucking crap. I like to have my introverted time and then bring that back to people, is how I usually operate. But colleges are good for a sense of community, and usually because the students are from the community, that's one of those things where I'm not going to use a phrase as pedestrian as two-way channel. I'm going to say, two-way street. I'm going to say a two-way channel, because it's a channel of information of what that student is learning in the school. And especially in colleges, usually that's extracurricular activities as well. And a lot of college students work too. So that's the loss of the lives of the students that got shot. That's the loss of their life. That's the loss of family members. And of that information channel, of that current, of their presence in the college, which is going to leave a hole in their classmates' lives. In that, no matter whether or not you believe or think that that was a terror attack, it was in fact a terrorist attack. And it was timed up right before Christmas, right before all the winter holidays. And no matter what we do or don't know about Erickson, if he was the one that did it or whoever did it, you can't blame mental health disorders on that. You can't blame mental health or anything, because doing something like that is crazy. It's insane to kill another human being, but it doesn't actually actively have to come from a place of insanity. It doesn't have to come from a place of craziness. It can come from a place of sociopathy. It can come from a place of psychosis, which is craziness, which is mental insanity, but it's a very particular kind of insanity that police and military organizations and colleges have had experience with for thousands of years. Is that the real horrifying thing to me, besides the fact that people were murdered, is that the person who murdered them did it extremely deliberately. Just from the way that he was walking in the footage on the street, the set of his shoulders, the confidence, and yet also it was an assumed confidence in that you could tell that he was in a hurry, that he was forcing himself to keep with his adrenaline to get through the street quickly. I know exactly what it's like to do that. That's the terrifying thing to me, is the invasion of the body snatchers aspect of what happened on the 13th. And if it was Erickson, he wasn't even from around here, and that makes that even more terrifying. If there's one thing a lot of people are fond of, it's the colleges around here, and I can make as many jokes as I or anyone would like about sorority girls and how fucking annoying they are and how basic they sound and shit like that. That doesn't mean that I want them to die. I'm a big fan of education and knowledge. I'm a big fan of family. Of family or found family. And that's a tragedy. And it's going to be, and it was something to see how actively people were trying to trace and track it as it was happening. I didn't hear a single person mention or talk about it today at all. It's already in the news for people that were just asleep or didn't know, as it needs to be. It's already in the paper news, being covered. There's a very, as I've gotten older, as I've reached 30, there's a certain disconnect from reality that I've always felt, that other people always made more solid. And for everything that I've done, good or bad, the last couple years, all I can really do is make things more stolid for myself. And I use a word that has to do with wood and with physics for the very particular reason of one of the ways that I try and micro and macro manage the way I come off, present and speak, enunciate and think for the light schizoaffective that I have, is to try and use very definitive word choice. Because it's very easy for me to slip into a younger mindset or a sort of ghetto mindset, or a wannabe thug mindset, I guess I would say. And one thing that I've reignited for myself for sure is a love of professional language, of legalist language. I also love metaphorical and figurative language, although I sometimes avoid it, I sometimes don't. It depends on the person I'm talking to, and so on. Context is key, is one thing that I've said for a long time throughout my life. I was profiling a guy I didn't even know just because of the fact that he'd hurt people that if things were different I could have gone to school with. Is something that instead, I had to face that. That's a little bit self-interested. But I did acknowledge it as I was thinking it. And I could have literally just spent the night. I could have spent today going through Providence and seeing how people felt, how the collective ethos of the city had changed. But because of my own situation, no matter what, that would be almost vulture-esque and vampiric. So I decided not to. I decided not to bother. Because I've only lived in Providence myself nominally a handful of times. Two dead, 8 shot at the least. I've also heard 9, 10, 11, and 20 people as well. I also heard that not in Wisconsin, there was some home down in North Carolina or some state where the FBI had tracked Erickson down to. I also heard that he was in a hotel in Coventry. So there's already conflicting news reports. I hope that he is the one that did it. I hope that they already have the right suspect. I hope he's tried for life, as he deserves. And I don't think he's crazy. I don't think it was a mental or psychotic break. I think that he probably is either a sociopath or a psychotic. That kind of mindset can hide amongst people for a very, very long time. A lot of people with light schizoaffective with schizophrenia share traits with people who are psychopaths, because psychosis is one of our symptoms. Not always, but sometimes. And that's a part of myself I really don't try to feed with anything except humor with other people, acting crazy, sarcasm, that kind of shit. Because people like toughness. They like softness too. As do I. Extremes of emotion and extreme actions and even violence are an inherent and natural part of being human. And the wisdom of anyone old or young is to have that contained, controlled focus directed for positive means, for positivity, for group positivity. Because no matter what people say or think or feel or believe, we are a social species. We're specifically designed and bred and made and make ourselves that way throughout life to remind ourselves that we're social. And it's fucking terrifying that despite that, in spite of that, that if you get the bravery to participate in a crowd or with a crowd, at a crowd, from within or without, there's always a chance that that could activate someone else. I'm not going to say trigger, activate. Male jealousy, female jealousy, trans jealousy, matrilinealism, patrilinealism, quatrilinealism. I kind of wish I had gone down there today. But also the fact is I wouldn't have been able to do much on the ground. Grounding something is a military term, not for giving a kid time out, but for destroying something down to its foundation, to its set. Try not to ground this place is a line from Halo Reach. I always worry about ruining things and people. Nowadays more so. Like that episode of Futurama where Fry goes through the park and all that after Leela, I think denies him his hand in marriage again, or like going out with her, or some crap. It's been a while since I've really watched Futurama. I did love it when I was younger though. That's also been my experience the last couple of years. I have a lot of conflicting feelings about Providence. But I love it as a community. I love it as a city. I love its people. I love its diversity. And I love its breadth and scope. And seeing its streets filled with police officers and army personnel and FBI agents made me feel really conflicted on a politics level. You'd hope they'd be able to deploy that quickly and easily, but you can also understand why leftists and really people in general are really uncomfortable about that as well. because it's a reminder of just the breadth of seriousness of life, of American life, not specifically. It's a tragedy that people died, that people were murdered. It's not a tragedy that the after effects are going to make people think. Although I think also the inevitable fallout is going to be that just as the good people in the rooms are made to think, the bad people in the rooms are going to think as well. And it makes me uncomfortable because it's easier to sneak around and get away with shit in winter. Honestly, just because people feel worse for each other because of the cold and shit like that. Since I found out I was Italian French or French Italian, I've kind of thought just about the mafia and mob and Malau lifestyles and ways of doing things, as I think anyone would. I'm sure those guys and girls are all having a good time. Although maybe not the ones that like colleges as much. And this is also one reason that I can't really complain about sort of just reactions to me and feedback. Because I know I kind of have like a serious face and like a severe look to me no matter what. No matter how lightly or darkly I'm dressed. Rhode Island's different with an adult view, with an adult perspective. Like Kettle Point, depending on what area of it you're inside, you can see the entirety of South Providence or the entirety of downtown Providence, the skyline. A lot of Riverside, a lot of areas in Riverside you can see Providence from a distance still. My thoughts are always going to be with that place ever since I lived inside of it. I was also living inside of it the way that a rat would. I didn't go to school with any of those kids. I didn't know any of them. But my uncle does work there, and I feel horrible about it. No one should be punished for pursuing an education. No matter what, I think that whoever did it, whether it's Erickson or not, deserves a life sentence. If Rhode Island had a death penalty, I honestly would support him being killed in response to killing multiple people. Which is the only instance where I really agree with that is if someone's murdered someone, multiple people, or raped someone. Adult or child, if you rape someone, I think that you deserve to be killed, honestly. Because you've either taken someone's life and removed it, or you've ruined someone for the rest of their life in something that inherently belongs to them. Which is ultimate violation. And that's why terrorism is disgusting. Is because not only did this guy kill multiple people, he killed our state in a way too. He killed the end of the year, he killed winter, and so on. He put a stop to the clock. And everyone is still going to have to go on with their day-to-day lives, because the sad reality is that it wasn't the end of the world, except for the people that it actually literally was the end of their world. And that's fucking horrific. And it's sad, and it should be acknowledged too. All the different facets of that. What I dread is just the idea of some of those college students needing to get their trauma out or to share what happened. And because of the way people are around here, it'll get trivialized and made fun of and mocked. And taken lightly and repeated. And imitated. As if it was normal. There didn't ever used to be school shootings in the 1910s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s onwards. It's been a phenomenon every other couple of years, every other decade or so. I think that technology is really bad for all of us. I love it. I love communications and networked and digital technology, but I think with Ray Bradbury in Fahrenheit 451, he was a 50s writer who tried to imagine what the 2000s would be like from the 50s. And he almost pretty much got it spot on in that people had giant screens for the walls of their homes, and every home was fireproofed to the point it couldn't catch fire. And this is where the fear is, in that it was a fascist vision of America, where instead fire departments exist to burn people's homes if they have books, which is the catch and the hook and the excitement of that novel, because he meets the 17-year-old girl, Clarice. She's kind of, she's a Pollyanna. She's an excitable person. She loves life. She loves to read. She loves her relatives and to talk on the porch. And instead of this elderly guy taking her under his wing, they happen to meet because they live in the same neighborhood. He's in an unhappy marriage, and they talk. They don't have sex. Nothing like that. There's not a single indication that Guy Montag has any kind of romantic feelings for his young friend, but she does wake him the fuck up to the fact that there's a possibility that the people he works with and for are morally bankrupt. And as he starts to meet readers and people that like books, as he starts to delve through books himself, he realizes that more and more, until he's the one being chased by the people he used to work with, by the exact people that he used to work with, and even sets one of the guys, the fire chief, the battalion chief that he works for, on fire. And as it turns out, in both the book and expanded parts of the book that weren't included in the copy that was released, that same officer who was his chief actually used to really love books too, until he realized that they did nothing for him, that they were just escapist entertainment, basically no different from a movie or a television show. And he dares Guy to do it, actually. He dares him to light him on fire. He dares him to kill him. He makes fun of him while he's doing it, actually. That's not the type of violence that should be anywhere near colleges or schools. This is the only type should be voluntary fighting. Something that someone signs up for, it's someone that someone expects. And another thing I had to come to grips with is how older adults aren't broken. We're not machines. It's just that eventually you personally go through so much horror. The people in your life have gone through so many different horrors. It's not that you get used to it, it's that you grow into it. And you grow into avoiding it too, the same way that you did when you were younger. Not just loss of innocence, but it's almost like in an attempt to preserve their innocence, people have a loss of guilt, is how I put it to describe people that I've met and talked to and so on. They come off as guilty about the things that they've done in relationships, romantic or otherwise. Sess, cello. It's strange.